Hello everyone, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is March the 28th already, March the 28th, 2024. And tomorrow is the beginning of our Easter weekend. And in case I forget to say it at the end, I want to say now to all of those that celebrate Easter, a happy and blessed Easter weekend. I hope it is a special time for you and your family. So, we have a lot to cover today. I want to welcome everybody, both returning subscribers. I enjoy seeing you every week, and to new people, I welcome you. We are very happy to have you join us. We just last Friday made that 1,300 mark, and I was really happy to see that. So you're going to hear more about 1,300 and Easter later in this podcast, or maybe next podcast. We'll see how it goes. So, first of all, I usually talk about what I'm wearing, but I've been wearing this the last couple of weeks, I think. I'm going to refer to this again in just a moment, because this has brought us today to the end of the National Crochet Month, or National Month of Crochet, however you want to say it. We've been celebrating crochet this month. And so I'm going to talk about that first. And last week I talked about my favorite pattern. And I do like, as I mentioned last week, one of my favorite patterns is Granny Meets Virus, or the Virus Meets Granny. I'm not really sure how it's called. I call it Granny Meets Virus, which I'm going to show you one of in just a minute. I have an FO for you. But I forgot that this is also one of my favorite patterns. And this is the reading shawl. And it's my favorite because it gives you warmth around your arms and at your side. Instead of the V point, it's straight across the back. And I have been noticing quite a number of my followers and a few other podcasters, I guess that's what we're called, creators, YouTubers, whatever. I notice a number of them have picked up on this shawl as well. It is a great shawl. It's very versatile. I've actually done one with a little variation in the sides. I've used different yarns. So this is a great shawl, as well as the Granny Meets Virus. And we'll talk about that in a minute. The next thing on this list, finished makes, we talked about last week, and you'll see more finished makes. The next thing on this list, and by the way, for those that haven't been here or aren't aware, I'm using this that came out from Ola Jo. A lot of people have been covering it. I see she got it from somewhere else. The next thing on the list asks to talk about our crochet workspace. Well, I decided to do just a little video for you. So I'm going to pause right now, and I'm going to take you up to see my crochet workspace. Be right back. Okay, this is my crochet corner in the living room. As you can see, I have a lamp here with an OT light in it, an OT light bulb. This is a recliner chair, and it has cup holders in it, which more often than not, it actually carries a ball of yarn. And this is the one I'm working on this week. And you can see this table beside me has a nice slide out tray and a drawer where I have odds and ends that have something to do with crochet sometimes. And you can see I have space here for my tools. Right now, as you know, I'm working on beading,
And I've done one row of beads in that, and I'm getting ready to do a tutorial on beading. Recliner chair, I think I mentioned. And next to it, you'll see something a little different. And this is an actual music stand that I had from the past. And on it, I have my iPad. Now, this one iPad is the iPad I videotape with. The other is very, very old, and I don't use it much, but it's a good standby. And I have an Adobe Reader file there with all my patterns. So I like to keep it, but I don't use it much. And as well, as I said, this has a foot piece that comes out, but my legs are long, so I need a footstool. And on the footstool, I have a small single size quilt that I made many years ago. And this footstool opens, and I have a big project bag in there that has all of my little bundles of crochet hooks separated by size. So this is my little corner where I sit and work and listen to audio books and watch YouTube and so on. So just an idea of where I like to huddle in and do my work.
So I hope you liked that little visit into my crochet corner. It is quite comfy in that corner. And I'm going to refer to one thing there in just a minute. Then it asks why I crochet. Well, that changes. I originally got back into crochet, as you know, because I wanted to make some things to donate to our church in their mission work. Now I crochet because I absolutely love doing it. I love working with the yarns, especially the hand-dyed yarns. They're so lovely. I love color, so I love working with the color. But again, I have to say, I also do enjoy being able to create things, first of all, that other people can enjoy. I've gifted many, many items, and I also enjoy still donating to 2 different groups that, can make use of what I'm making. They're practical and they help people, and I enjoy that. I just enjoy the creative aspect and being able to create and make something tangible. I've always been a crafter, and this is just one more in a long list of crafts, and I thoroughly enjoy doing it. It just gives me a good feeling, and it's also a kind of craft that can give you relaxation and a feeling of peace. So that is a good thing as well. Now, the next thing it asks on here, what is your favorite background noise, TV, podcast, or music? Well, when I was showing you my crafting corner, I showed you the music stand. I don't think too many people have a music stand in their little crafting corner. But as a music person and a music director, I had a music stand, and it's just gathering dust, and I thought it was perfect to set there to put my iPads on. Now, my iPads are there for multiple reasons. It's the corner where I do my searching the web and get down rabbit holes looking at patterns. And the old one carries most of my patterns, so I can prop my pattern there on the music stand and see my pattern while I'm working there. But it's also, either one of them is useful in listening to audio books. I, from a very young age, maybe 8 or so, was an avid reader. So much so, my mother would get upset and say, "Go out and play with the kids, Judy. Don't lay up here reading." And I much preferred to be reading. I'm very much a homebody. I am not an extrovert by any means. And so I've always read. I have a Kindle with hundreds of books on it. And then I started back into my crafting, and there was a dilemma. I don't have enough time to do both. And luckily for me and for anybody now that loves to read, they make audiobooks. And so I listen to audiobooks on my iPad while I'm sitting there crocheting. Now, sometimes I'm not in a mood, or sometimes I don't. I get my audiobooks through a library connection, so there's no charge for them, which is great. But sometimes I use up my allotment for the month, and I can't get another audiobook. So I also sometimes watch YouTube. There are several of you YouTubers out there that I watch faithfully, and I will put them on, and now I can actually wear my glasses while I crochet. At one time I couldn't. I have really good eyesight up close, but not at distance. But now I can still see with my glasses on to crochet. And I watch a lot of your podcasts on YouTube while I'm doing this, so that may be why I don't always comment, because my hands are busy crocheting. I have a few other things I also watch on YouTube. I watch one to do with animals and so on. So definitely I'm either listening to an audiobook or watching some YouTube videos while I crochet. It's good, nice to know I can do two of my loves at the same time. Yarn storage, I don't think I need to talk about that. You see yarn storage, you saw it throughout this room when I did. For those that are new, if you go back into January sometime, I think, I did I showed my yarn room. This isn't a yarn room, it's actually a sewing room, which was a fourth bedroom in the house, but it's got a mixture of sewing and yarn, more yarn than anything. And the next room has yarn too. So I have a whole video about that. You go back and look at all the beautiful yarn and how I store it. Next thing is something I'm proud of. Well, when you say that something I'm proud of course, most people think in the context of something I may have made that I'm particularly proud of. Or does it mean generally, is there something I'm proud of? That's a difficult question. If I'm going to keep it strictly to crochet, not things outside of crochet in my life. I'm going to stick with crochet. And I have made a lot of beautiful items, I think. So how do you pick one particular item you're proud of? I'm always proud when I do a new pattern, a more difficult pattern, something a little different. I haven't pushed myself enough, and I'm going to start doing that. Push myself to do new things, more difficult things, challenge myself in my crochet. So after thinking about it for a little bit, I finally decided that the thing I've done in the crochet world that I'm most proud of is my YouTube channel. I'm sure, there are hundreds and hundreds of crochet, knit, yarn YouTube channels out there now. Everybody is fighting for their little corner to get their numbers. I'm not going to worry if I ever get to any particular number. I'm always happy for each new milestone that I reach. But I'm proud of being able, I think, this is my own opinion, but I think I deliver quality each and every week. Some weeks may be a little less than others, but that's what I'm trying to do. I want to share what I do, but I also want to have a quality video, not full of fluff. And I had a viewer, I've had many viewers tell me how much they enjoy watching my videos. A couple of you that live just an hour different from me will tell me how they like getting up in the morning, Thursday mornings, and watching me while they have their breakfast, or sit and enjoy a cup of tea or coffee and listen to me. Or some will say they like to put me on and sit and crochet while they listen. And I appreciate all those comments. But today I got a comment that from a viewer, name will remain unknown, who received one of the gifts from me, and at the very end said something to the effect of, she really enjoyed my videos and thanks for including her, or welcoming her to this community. They are such an accepting community. And I thought, wow, I'm glad that that's how it comes across to people, that I have hopefully made this feel like we're friends. A few people have said they feel like they're sitting down with a friend and having a conversation when they watch my YouTube channel. I'm not trying in any way to think I'm better than anybody else or to pat myself on the back or brag. I'm just sharing a few of the comments, and that they just make me want to tear up when you say them. I really appreciate that you share those comments with me. They make me feel like I am doing, I guess, what I set out to do with my videos. And that is to bring you something of quality, to make you feel like we are friends, because people, you are my friends, my Yarny community, and I so enjoy bringing you content every week. I so enjoy your comments. I so enjoy that you share your makes, and it's not always for the monthly Cal. I have people send me things, they just want to share what they've done, and I really appreciate that. And it makes me feel like we are a community, and I enjoy making these videos every single week. My week kind of centers around doing them, and I enjoy hearing from you so much. And so I have to say that creating and delivering this YouTube weekly is probably the thing that I am most proud of. And I am so proud to be considered your friend. That's a good thing. All right. So that's almost, the next thing is my newest make. You're going to see my newest make in just a minute. And then there isn't much else on here. So I'm going to stop at that point and say we have covered the National Crochet Month. Now, I have a lot of different things to cover, and I almost forgot the thing I wanted to say at the beginning, and that's a reminder, talking about the monthly mal, a reminder that tonight is the deadline for getting your picture into me. If it came early tomorrow morning, I guess you would still make it, but I'm not going chasing anybody this month. I don't know how many have come in so far, a good number. And just remember, the deadline is midnight tonight, Eastern Standard Time. And that slideshow that you all are waiting for every month, excuse me, is on Monday. Let me get a drink. Sorry about that. Monday is April the 1st. I know you're always waiting for that first of the month to know what's coming next. So we'll see you again on Monday with the slideshow and the new bird. All right, so that takes us to move on to FOs. Well, the first FO I want to show you has nothing to do with crochet. As you know, I have had trouble with my hand at Christmas time, and every now and then it acts up. So I've made it a regular part of my routine to do a little break from crochet. I still crochet a lot, but I do take breaks. And just this week, I finished another diamond painting for Easter. And I was able to actually get it out 2 days ago, and it's hanging on my front door. I bought a bunch of them that come with chains to be able to hang them up. And I'm going to be hanging a bunch of these as I finish them on my front door, seasonally appropriate pictures. So I have Halloween and I have fall and spring and summer and some gnomes and garden things. So I finished that, and I think you can see all the sparkle. And it had an awful lot of my favorite color in it. But anyway, it's done, and it's been hanging on the door. So that's my first FO. Then the next FO is something that I had shown you as a whip last week. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about this. And this is, whoops-a-daisy. This is the Granny Meets Virus shawl. And you saw the beginning of it, the dark part, but now I have finished the whole cake. I didn't bring down the leftover, but the leftover ball is only about that big. I actually use it in the next video you're going to see. So here is the finished shawl, Granny Meets Virus, or Virus Meets Granny. One of those cakes makes a very large shawl, and I'm going to put it on this one. So you see how it looks along the back, and you can see it is quite long. So this pattern and this pattern are my favorites. So I'll just put her over there. I think you can see her just a little bit. I used a Shape's Whirl gradient cake. You know, for the expense of a Shape's Whirl, and they are very similar to Yarn Art, and there's some Stenley cakes, and also, what's the other one I want to say? Oh yeah, Hobie. Hobie has different ones. They have Hobie Twister, and I forget the name of the other. They changed the name. And Cotton King. They're all very, very similar, but this one felt just a little bit, well, I didn't enjoy it quite as much. It was not gliding as nicely over my wooden crochet hook as I would have liked. And they're expensive. So I have a couple more I will eventually use, but I'm going to say, if you're out looking for gradient cakes, look for Yarn Art. They're the cheapest of them all. And sometimes Hobie has theirs on sale, and some of them can be under $20, but when they're not on sale, they get quite expensive as well. But anyway, I love this pattern. Now, I had a day or two I wanted to do something quick and easy, and I decided to go back into my whips. If you remember, at the end of the year, I showed you the app with everything I made, and I had started 72 projects last year, but 3 of them did not get finished. Well, I went back and got one of those whips, and I will get the other 2 plus another one that I have up there. And it was made with Scarfie. There's the Scarfie tag, and Scarfie has 312 yards, 285 meters. It is 78% acrylic, 22% wool, and this is called mint silver. Comes in lots of colors. I was making a scarf, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go as far as I can, more or less, with the one ball, and I'm just going to make it into a cowl. And there it is. The name of the pattern is mint julep scarf or something. I will put a link to all the patterns I talk about and the designer. This was a tutorial on YouTube. I will link that. I will link this. It was a Ravelry pattern that I got. That's the back where I seamed it up. That can go to the back. But there it is. I love the color. And I had this much left out of the ball. I could have made a little bit more, but it was quite tall enough as it was and long enough to go around, so I didn't make any more. So that is another finished object. So one less whip in my list. So let's put that over to the side. And the next finished object, and I showed this last week, it wasn't blocked, but I'll show it again this week, and I'll talk more in depth. And that is my item for the MAL this month. And I'll flash up here the picture of the birds. I think they were parrots. And I showed you the yarn, although I did change one of the yarns. I showed a variegated with a lot of green, and I changed it to this yarn, which is from Evergreen Yarn Studio. I don't remember where they are, but I had this in my stash, so I pulled it out, and I have that much of it left over. And the green was from Weird Sisters. I don't have enough hands here. The green was from Weird Sisters, and there's their logo. And this is, you know, it has a number, but it looks like they covered, oh, there it is, 75% merino, 25% nylon. This one is 85 extra fine merino and 15% nylon. I had this much of the variegated, this much of the green left over. Might be able to put them in something else down the road. As for the burgundy, I had more of the, even more than this of the burgundy left over, and I know what company it was from and I forgot, and I actually gave it away. Somebody wanted it and was interested in it, so I gave it to them. So here is, now I want to talk about this, and I'm showing it today because I don't want to spend as much time talking about this on the video at the first of the month. This starts down here with the burgundy, and it starts out much like, well, not exactly, similar to an asymmetrical shawl, but an asymmetrical shawl generally stays even on one side and increases on the other. This definitely increases, but at the same time it's got double crochet two together as well. So I mean, it's what this is from Mariana Mueller. I showed it to you last week because I was working on it when I did the focus on her, and she calls this a kite shape. Okay, so it has a center spine like a shawl, but it doesn't get as big on both sides. It grows sort of like an asymmetrical triangle, and it grew all the way out to here, where you see this white, 2 rows of green, but this white here, well, it's not just white, the white variegated, goes on both sides. So you can tell I went that far. And then it switches to this green and it decreases on both sides. It has a fan cluster kind of look. Decreases on both sides all the way out until you have a point again. And in such a way that this widest part here, because it keeps it fairly straight with the other part across here, so it actually is a shawl shape. And I have a picture of it where I hung it on the wall. I'm going to put it right here. So it looks like a shawl, but it is not made the same way a shawl is made. So here is the back of it. Has a point, just like any other shawl, but it has this point arrow look to it. So that is very different. I was really happy with the colors. I really like this green, and I do like the variegated better than the one I originally had picked. So that's my item for this month. So that's my finished objects. Next, better double check all my notes here. Next, I want to talk very, very briefly about a whip. By the way, I have 2 whips. I'm really changing my tune, aren't I? I have 2 whips on the go because, as I said, I started another one of these in a very different color. And of course, I'm still working on the shawl that I was working on last week. And I'm going to show you my progress. Last week, I had only gotten as far as the main part of it, the variegated with a couple lines of the teal. Well, the next section was the teal. I got strings here kind of tying me up. The teal, and it has beads in it. I think you can see the beads. There are beads in this row here, and there are beads, let me get the light so you can see beads in this very bottom row. Now, I'm not going to talk about the yarn or much about this at all this week. It will definitely be done for next week. And then I'm going to do actually a review on this yarn, and I'll talk about why. And I'll have this item finished and so on. But this, and I love these colors together. If I turn it around, can you see? Yeah, I think you can see the beads in the top row. Can you see the beads in the bottom? Yeah, I can see them a little bit. See the beads? Well, if I put it over my red shirt, you can see it a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to break away to another video because I promised you a tutorial on how to bead. So here it is. All right, so I have gathered the tools that I need to do this demonstration. First, I have stitched a swatch here, and I used a remnant from the shawl I showed you today. So this is a gradient cake, the cotton acrylic gradient cakes. And I just pulled a little bit of it out, but I'll put that back in. And I was stitching it with a 4mm hook from Furls. And I have also, to help me with this, I have a steel crochet hook. You can barely see the hook on the end. I had 3 to choose from. This one happens to be, it's on here, there it is. This is a 1.0mm crochet hook. They use this with crochet thread, and it is very tiny, but I chose it because it will fit through the beads. If I went a size higher, I did have a 1.25. The 1.25 would not go on the hook.
I mean, the hook would not slide through the beads. I tried this next, and if it wasn't going to work, I also have a 0.75, which is very fine, but you don't even hardly see the hook on it. And this hook is already awful small when using it. Now, just before we start, I also want to show you the beads I am using. I got these from Mountain Gem, and these are the beads they generally ask for, the 6.0 beads. This is the exact color I'm using on the item I'm making right now, so I decided to bring them along. I won't keep them right in the picture frame, and I'm going to attempt to show you how I did this, and hopefully it will work. I'm going to show you first. I am going to have a little bit of problem staying in the picture frame here, but we'll see. Okay, how about if I just pull out a couple of stitches and show you how it is done? So there would be my I'm above the camera, and sometimes the spatial aspect gets a bit weird. Let me find the end of my thread. There we are. Now I'm choosing to do this on this particular thread or yarn because it is narrower or finer or thinner than what I was using upstairs, and I'll tell you why I chose it. But here is what you do. You get to a place where it says, now it's time to do a bead. Maybe the bead will go between these are double crochets here. So maybe that bead, I think I'm going to pull out one more stitch. I'm a little too close to the end. So maybe it says do a row of double crochets and put a bead between, say, every other one. The pattern I was working on yesterday had big spaces, and it would say bead chain. So I'd put on a bead, do a chain, and then I would do another stitch, and then a bead and a chain. We're going to pretend I want to put beads between these two double crochets. So when you get to where you need the bead, you take your hook out. Then you go and get a bead on your small hook. So I have a bead on my hook. There it is. Then you put this small hook in the loop that you have here. Now, you may not be able to see me do this, but I find it easiest if I see when most people show it, they just hook this, but I find this little hook doesn't grab it all very well. So I actually take the bead and pull it over, get a hold of that, and use the bead and pull with my fingers and pull the yarn through the bead. You saw how I had to pull a bit, and it gets tight in there. And then you go ahead and you put your regular hook in there, and then you proceed to do your next stitch. So let's say I'm sorry, I'm knocking the camera. Let's say I have to do a double crochet. It's hard to do these things when you're behind. Oops. Because I'm looking at it through a camera, it's a little more awkward. Okay, so there we have our bead between the two double crochets. Now let me do it one more time. Say I want another bead between the next two. I take my regular hook out. I get my fine hook. I want to be careful that I don't have my furls fall on the floor. You know what happens to furls that fall on the floor. I go over here and I get a bead on my hook. Move that out of the way. Now I come over here and I put my hook through the loop. Now this part, actually it wouldn't hurt to have another hand, but that's what we have. You can just pull it back through, but I find it doesn't always work. So I bring it up as close as I can to the head. Then I grab the bead and I hook the yarn the best I can, and then I pull it through. And there you have it. Now I'm going to take this out, get my regular hook, put it through the loop, and proceed on with my next stitch. So now we have beads between, let me pull this up a bit, beads between two crochet stitches. I have a feeling that most of the time after you do a bead, they ask you to do a chain behind it, but I don't know. I've only done my one pattern and it's bead, chain, bead, chain. I don't think they have you do two in a row like this, otherwise they're going to be piling up on each other. But that's the technique. They'll tell you where to put the bead and what stitches you should be doing. But to put the bead on is just what I showed you. You take this small hook and you slide it through. Now I'm going to go back. I'm taking these out, so I'm just going to get over the dish so the beads will fall into the dish. The reason I used this fairly fine yarn is because I was doing this yesterday on the shawl that you saw that I am making that has the beads, and the yarn is thicker. It's a fingering weight, but it is thicker than this. And I found because it's got wool in it that it split, and I was often splitting the yarn on the loop and it wouldn't all come through. So today I brought down a finer yarn just to try this out. So I'm going to, it's kind of dark, but I hope that you would be able to see what I'm doing. Move that one out of the way. This is Oasis fingering yarn, and it's a little finer than what I was using upstairs. And in fact, I was probably using a 3.5 millimeter hook to do my work. But anyway, let's say, see, it has clusters. There's clusters, V-stitch, and then a fan. I'm going to put a chain here, and then I'm going to put a bead on it before I work into the next cluster here. So let's say I have to put a bead on it. I'm out here getting me a bead. It's a little farther away, and I didn't wear my glasses. Okay, I have a bead, and here we are. And as I told you before, you go into the loop. Whoops. Okay. Okay, I've gone into the, whoops, get back on there. And you have to be careful. You can't have your loop behind the bead. It has to be in front of the bead. Sometimes this is fidgety. Okay. The problem is I have a previous stitch here, and it wants to do something kinky. There we go. Okay. So I've got my bead. I've got my loop of thread, And this time it's Oasis fingering, which is a finer fingering than, say, a plain merino nylon. And I am going to bring them up close, grab the bead, and I got to get where it will focus so you can see it, and pull it through. Now that pulled through quite nicely. The other yarn I was using didn't pull through as nice. And then I will place my regular loop hook there, and I'm going to do a chain behind it. That will hold it in place. And then I will go on to this stitch here and do my, I think it's a V stitch goes in here. And now you can see where I've put a bead between the fan and the V stitch. And it worked very nicely with this particular yarn. So someday I may use Oasis fingering and put beads in it. Now, the one thing I want to tell you, you can see that it is a bit fiddly to get the bead on. And of course, you're changing hooks all of the time. So you have to understand that this is a very time-consuming procedure. You have to really want the look of the beads in your project. They do make it beautiful. I will be showing you, or I already showed you, a close-up of the one I'm working on with the beads in it. It took me a long time to do the first row of beads. I'm going to do more beads before we actually see this video later in the week. So that's how you would add a bead to your project.
So I hope that was help to you in seeing how beads go on. I want to make one or two comments. I'll try to make them quick because once again, I think I have hardly anything to fill a video and it ends up going long. But I want to mention, first of all, that I said the beads were from Mountain Gem. They're from Fire Mountain Gem. I will, again, put a link to where you can get beads in the description box below. And I want to clarify just a little bit of what I was saying, because what you need to see is when I was doing my first row of beads, I'll tell you, it took me the better part of an afternoon to do that row. And here's partly why. This is the yarn I'm using there. Very nice yarn. I will talk more about it next week. But it is yarn with wool in it. 80 or 85% merino, maybe 75, but it has wool in it. And you saw that tiny, tiny little hook. And when it's pulling through, it sometimes splits the wool, and then it only pulls one, say, ply of the yarn through the bead, and the other doesn't come through. So it is a little bit harder with yarn that is a little bit thicker. This is thicker than some other yarns. Now, mind you, once I had done the first row, I got comfortable with it. I got into a groove, and I do have that yarn here. I brought it down and set it over there. This is what's left over from this, and this is what I used to do the demonstration in my video. And this is, it's thinner. See if I can get them both over my hand, and you can see that it is a little bit, why am I always so awkward at these things? I don't know if you can tell, but it is a little bit thinner. The pale blue is thinner than this wool. and it doesn't split as easily. And then I tried Oasis fingering. I think I did that in the video too, and it went through quite nicely. So I think it is easier with a thinner yarn, or if you're using a heavier yarn, you would get a larger bead. You can buy beads of any size. You can get bigger beads in Michael's, you know, and then you could use a little bit bigger hook and it would pull through. But the bigger the bead, the heavier it's going to be. I can already feel a little bit of weight from these beads. But by the time I did the second row, I had got accustomed to how I was going to hold it. I had fiddled with holding it all, so I was trying to hold everything at once, and I finally realized I don't have to. I got more comfortable with it. I got into a rhythm of how I was picking up and putting down, and I had it all around me nice and comfortable. And I was able to do a row in, maybe an hour and a half. Well, I'm quite a distance out in the shawl now, so of course it's a long distance around, and I'm putting a bead, you know, every third or fourth stitch, so a lot of beads. I intend to do 3 more rows, I think, of plain pattern, another row of beads, and then probably only 1 or 2 rows to finish it off. I think I'll just leave it at 3 rows of beads, and it will, I don't have enough to make a full-size shawl like any of these, and so I just want to make it big enough that it's a neck wrap and has enough of a tie to come around. So I will have that done to show you next week. I intend to take time tomorrow to sit and finish this particular shawl, and by next week I really hope I'm going to have that shawl done as well. Now I wanted to ask, now that I've tried doing a tutorial and it was a bit awkward, and I'm going to apologize. I don't know until I edit what happens, but I suspect that instead of getting the regular format, you're going to get this narrow picture in the 2 videos that I edited into my normal video. And that was because it wasn't until I was all done filming the tutorial that I realized I was using my iPhone, and I was using it straight up in portrait position, and YouTube says you need to film in landscape. I never thought about it, and I was not going to go and remake them both, and I thought, oh, for this little bit you can live with that narrow video. At least I think that's what you're going to get. I might be wrong. It might look wonderful and look just like this, and I'm apologizing for nothing, but just in case it looked weird, that's why. Next time I will know better. And I really would like to do at least one other tutorial, and I have had a few requests and various discussions have happened lately about charts. I think people are afraid of what they don't know, so they don't think they would be able to read a chart. And I have to tell you, I've done both. I've been reading patterns since way back in the 70s, and if you give me a choice, I'll take a chart over the written words every single time. It's nice to have the written words there as a backup if you're not sure. But the charts, I was doing a pattern that one with the teal. And as I'm trying to follow what she's saying, and it's a lot of the same words, and chains and single and chains and single and jump this and chain space and asterisks, and trying to figure out, okay, what's in this repeat? I'm thinking to myself, she's a designer that does charts now, but this is an old pattern. I'm thinking, oh, why didn't you have a chart with this? If I could just see where you're going, it would be a whole lot easier than me reading these words over and over and over again. So I'm wondering, please let me know in the comment section below, would you like a tutorial, or it might even take a couple of tutorials, a series, would you like a few tutorials in how to read charts? I've been doing some research. I found lots of charts, different kinds of charts, and I would be more than happy to try to do some tutorials in chart reading if you would like that. And I will do it sometime next month if I get enough positive response, enough people want to. And if you've never read a chart and you're thinking they're hard, this is the perfect opportunity to see they aren't that hard. And I have some examples to show how when you see the chart, you actually have a visual picture even before you start to make it of what you're going to get. So I think it's worthwhile, but I'm not going to spend time, making, because it's difficult to make up a tutorial. It's a whole different thing and it's awkward, and I'm still new at it, so I will be awkward, but I am willing to do something on chart reading if you are interested in doing that. Let me know. Okay. One other thing I wanted to talk about is, because this has been long enough already, we're over 50 minutes if my calculations are correct. So I just want to wrap this up for this week. I do have yarn to show you. I thought I'd have enough time to do this small acquisition, but no, I don't want to draw this out because I know I take longer than I should. And I do have my yarn from my 3 different subscription boxes. And I just received the 3rd one today. So next week, I think I want to talk about my subscription boxes and compare them. And I also, I'm going to say something that some of you will say, Judy, make up your mind. I don't know. I'll put a link to Gary. Gary is doing a make-along. I think it goes till the end of April, 1st of May. And once again, he's doing mood boards, but this one is specific to music. And when he mentioned it, I said, oh yeah, I want to do that. And I had a song and everything in mind. And then I got thinking, okay, you're doing this and you're in the middle of that. You're trying to get ready for a craft show in June. You want to get a sweater made before you go to the Fiber Festival. You have too much on your plate. You better not even think about them. And so I didn't. But then I watched 2 people, Linnea, you're one of them, and somebody else in the last day or so talk about it. And I said, I really would like to do that. And so when I was thinking about it this morning, I know Crystal was talking about it on her most recent video. And Crystal is starting to really get hooked on EFA yarn. She bought a fair bit lately, and she showed this package, curated package from Shandy. It's really very pretty, and I had to go look it up, and then I saw another package, and I said, that package is perfect for what I want to do. So anyway, next week, I'm going to talk about Gary's mood board using music and his mal, and I think I'm going to join in, and I'll talk more about it next week. All right. Also next week, we have the subscription boxes. Next week is the beginning of the month, and that's when I am going to do my previous month's update on Stash Down. Talk more about that again next week. I did do one Stash Down already, but I have one more thing I want your opinion on. I am going to make a where did I put it? I got this set of Oasis fingering yarns, and it came with these 2 pinks. You see there's a touch of blue in it, and the third skein had blue in it. I thought I had just put it here. I don't see it there. Oh, there it is. This was the 3rd skein. Has a little bit of blue with these. And I don't want to put, I can put this with any kind of blues, lots of blues to put it with. So, but the pattern I'm going to make, and I know I can get a picture of it, is the latest one that Shandy put out. I cannot pronounce it. Keone, something like that. And I love it. It's 3 colors. And I want to put this, I'm going to give this to somebody that likes pinks. And I've decided I'm going to do these 2, and I'm trying to decide on the 3rd. Now, if you look closely, this has, well, it looks blue and gray in it. So I did pick out, you know, your hands aren't meant to hold all this. I did pick out a gray. So I could be happy with the gray. It would work. But I did find 2 other pinks that also would work with this. See if I can find a way to hold these up here. And they would go on, let's turn it around then. They would go on this other end. So there is this one, a deeper variegated kind of pinks. There is a little bit of gray, you can't see in this light, but there is a little bit of gray up here, as well as a very deep, and there's a little bit of blue in it as well. So this is possibility gray, pink one, or I have a tonal pink, and it is, it's just tonal, light and dark, tonal pink. Has a little bit, there's light there, but it is more of the darker. And I get it under the right light so you can see it. So that's pink 2. Pink 2, pink 1, there's a shadow. Oh, there's about the best light I'm going to get. These 3 pinks, pink 1, pink 2, or I'd put gray on this end, or gray. I would really, really like your opinion, because I want to get this started, and I'm going to finish the beaded one in the next 2 days, and then I'm going to carry on with my, it's in the shadows, I'm going to carry on with my Granny Meets Virus, and I'll have it finished, oh, on the weekend, maybe the 1st of the week. And when I get it done, I want to move on to this. So I would love to hear your opinions on this so that I can get it started and maybe show it to you as a beginning whip next week. So that's in my brand new bag that I got from Sew Shannon again. So that's what I have for this week. That's more than enough. I've talked way too long. So if you are interested in hearing about my stash down and learning about my mood board, I won't be able to start it right away, but I'll talk about that next week. Then I hope you'll be back next week to see what I have planned for my mood board and what I decide, or what you help me decide on that pink shawl. It is a shawl. So until next week, happy hooking.